Hey everyone, it's your girl Maddie here, aka Beaver Mosh, and today I am joined by Hudson of Trog, which his band just put out Horrors Beyond last week. Hudson, thank you so much for joining me this evening. How are we doing?
Doing well. Just actually had to reset up the studio tonight. Struck it all down after we finished recording the record, but got some more projects coming in now, so I had to set the mics up and do all that shit again. So getting back into it.
Hell yeah, and before we started recording, I noticed your gigantic stack of band shirts in the background. How many do you think are in that?
Uh, I'm embarrassed to say how much money I spent on random band shirts, but probably about maybe like 150 ish.
Cool.
Yeah, and then we got the CDs on the other side. I don't know if this is gonna work, but yeah, they're chilling over there.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I have amassed quite the collection myself, and like I keep them in my closet, but eventually I think there won't be enough room in that closet for them. So
There never
I
is.
gotta find.
These were in my closet. Now they're up there because I ran out of fucking room.
You got the Master of Puppets poster, the Death poster up there.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hell
good
yeah.
shit.
Thank you.
Well, eh, I want to ask you, everyone else, you include, and everyone else in your band are all in other metal bands, other death metal bands, and you came together for this one. And I'm curious, what is it about Trog, this project, that feels different to you than other bands that you all are involved with?
So Pete's a little bit older, so he's been in a bunch of bands. But everybody else in the band is kind of my age. I'm 24. TJ's 25. I think Dan
Yeah.
is 25 as well. He's either 24 or 25. I grew up with Dan. We went to kindergarten together. And so like this is kind of the first band that we ever really started, and it's kind of been the one that we feel identity wise the most connected to.
Yeah.
TJ and I went on to join other projects, after this was already a thing. And Dan was in another band for a little bit, but now this is his only one. So I think this one is just kind of like our core identity, as
Sure.
far as like this is the musical representation of exactly the kind of music that we want to make. It's not really like joining somebody else's project and then kind of trying to fit their idea of what they want. Like this is exactly what we want, and we're all really good friends. And I
Yeah.
think I wish that was the case for every band on the planet, but it's not. And I
Definitely
do
not.
really I feel like the fact that we fucking hang out with each other all the time. We
Mm.
genuinely like we are always talking. Like we're really good friends. And Pete is my cousin. So and I went to kindergarten with Dan, and TJ is one of my best friends now. So like we're always hanging out, and I think that kind of
Mm.
translates to the writing process a little bit.
So I wasn't going to ask about the origin of the band, but it sounds like you have had this kind of lifelong connection with most of the people in it.
Hmm.
Was there a time when you kind of got together and like, hey, let's start a band, or what was kind of the starting impetus for this?
So Dan and I were jamming all throughout high school. He was just a dude that played guitar, and I was a guy that played drums, and I was kind of into, the Metallicas and the Megadeths at the time. Still am,
Yeah.
obviously, but Dan wasn't really a metal guy yet. I got him on board with Metallica and everything, and we just wanted to play music together. So we, bought a couple shitty mics and started recording shitty stuff in high school and whatever. I took an audio engineering class in college, and that kind of led to my love of doing audio, and that's why I do all the recording and mixing now is because I'd have such a good time doing that shit. But I kind of learned that I loved audio engineering, and I took an old song that Dan and I had recorded from high school, kind of remixed it, and we asked Pete if he wanted to do vocals on it because Pete had been doing a bunch of like hardcore and death metal bands, and while when he was a bit younger, and he said sure, and we kind of loved the result of that. So after that was done, we're like, all right, let's start writing material for the three of us and see what happens. That's when that first Cave Dweller EP came out, and then a couple years later, TJ joined the fold, and that was it. That's and then TJ instantly revitalized the writing process, and then Vomit came, and now this record came. So it kind of just slowly solidified over time.
Yeah, and when I listened to the record, what kind of stood out to me versus, other death metal records that I've been hearing this month is just how like straight to the point it is. It's like it's like a very classic, like old school, no nonsense take on it. Was that an intentional thing?
Yes, I
Yeah.
believe so. If I'm gathering the same, if I'm getting what you mean by that, we tried to trim as much fat as we could off of this record. It's only 33 minutes. We had
Yeah.
an eighth song and we said, fuck it, it's not as good as the other ones. So just send it with seven. And Yeah, we just tried to be as concise as we could about everything and get to the fucking point as quickly as we could. We didn't want to waste anybody's time. So we really self-edited a lot and tried to boil it down to just kind of the essence of everything.
Yeah, and I think that yes, but also I think I'm getting at stylistically like
Okay.
there's a lot of like dissonant death metal bands. There's a lot of like tech death and or bands going for an old school sound, but taking a more doomy kind of cavernous approach.
Hmm.
You're just like kind of like an obituary type thing. It's just kind of almost like rock and roll death metal, and I
Yeah,
I appreciate yeah
yeah, definitely. We all love melodic shit. I, obviously
yeah
love, old school thrash metal and I love groovy stuff too. You can go too far with groove.
yeah
You got to kind of pepper it in where it's appropriate, but like I fucking love Dying Fetus. I love Gojira. I love, Lamb of God. Like all these dudes who know how to like make you move and all these drummers are like really creative with their cymbal work and their like the grooves are super filthy. And so we really try to,
yeah.
make people move in some parts of this record. But also, we like guitar harmonies. We are sluts for guitar harmonies, so we will
Oh
put them
yeah
in wherever we can. So
yeah.
that kind of all led to the way that this record sounds.
Hmm. So I'm curious because like I'm 30, but so I'm a little older than you. You're 24.
Mhm.
Um, and so you can probably give me more insight than what I can glean about this, but it seems like old school thrash is kind of making a comeback in terms of listenership amongst younger people. Why do you think that is?
Hmm. Oh, that's a good question. I think a lot of those songs are just generally well written. I mean, I think there's a
Yeah,
lot of thrash that kind of just blends into the background. I think a lot of times pure thrash, unless if done like in like the German kind of style, which is just exciting and visceral and evil.
yeah,
But there's a lot of like generic American sounding thrash that kind of fades away. But the classics are extremely well written and they always have shit mixed in. So I think that's part of
yeah,
it. I think the other part is that hardcore is seeing more and more influence all over the place these days. And so I think you're seeing a lot more like crossover thrash and a lot of shit kind of, coming through that way. So I think it's kind of hitting people from a few different directions. But there's also been this huge revival of like that early, like either South American or like Teutonic kind of thrash that just like fucking evil, like that Creator, Sodom,
yeah,
Sepultura, Sarcophago, like that kind of just like evil fucking style. There's a lot of bands doing that now, which
yeah.
is kind of cool, like almost bordering on black metal, bordering on death metal, but not quite yet. I think that's really kicking off in a lot of parts of the world too. So I think people can kind of just get hit with thrash in a million different directions, and I certainly am a fan of all of those.
Yeah, no, I am as well. I got to see Sodom play the entirety of Agent Orange
Wow.
last month at Maryland Death Fest, and it was insane. And yes, what you're talking about, like the German take on thrash, that is just way more nasty and demented. Now, the
Yeah.
American thrash is fantastic for when it's good, but obviously doesn't have that same raw bite.
Yeah. Like yeah, the Teutonic stuff and some of the South American stuff, it just sounds fucking evil.
Yeah,
And I think in a lot of American thrash, it was more focused on, and it's not always super tight, but it was focused on more like tightness and, melody and stuff like that. And I think those bands just went like, how fucking fast can we play? Doesn't matter if we're all together. We'll be together most of the time, but it's okay if we're not always together. But how fucking fast can we play and how evil can we sound? And I think that's really
yeah.
cool.
And I think the American bands too were trying to showcase and keep that punk influence, those punk roots, like at the front, where I think the German bands didn't care. They were just like, yeah, that's part of the history, but we are going to make something completely more intense and wicked than that.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Now, this was mastered by Callan Marston, who is a very prolific guy, a
Gotta
great
rep the
talent
shirt.
behind the board. Hell yeah. Uh, he's worked from everyone from Gorguts to Agalock, and I'm just wondering, what was it like working with him on this record?
Well, I was an intern at his studio for a while.
Amazing.
So that's how I met him, and I became good friends with him. And it was kind of just the natural thing to ask him to master it. I mastered Vomit, and there were a lot. I have a lot of problems with the way that that EP sounds. I think coming back to it a few years later, it's not as bad as I thought, but definitely some imbalances that it's like, okay, we need to get a second set of eyes on this before we send it out. And so I've also learned a lot about audio since we did that one. So
Yeah.
this record sounded better from the jump, but it just made total sense. Like Colin's a savage at what he does, and he's a friend of mine. And so we'll just send it his way. Everything in New Jersey and New York that has anything to do with death metal tends to go through him. And this one was no different. And I also think that we kind of I don't know, maybe he'd disagree, but I think we kind of have complementary styles. I know a lot of the music that Colin makes, it's so layered and so intricate, and a lot of times it's super dissonant, and there's like a million things happening at the same time. And he always finds this perfect, like delicate balance of everything, and everything pokes out just the perfect amount, and it's like he like beautifully crafts his mixes, and I loved watching him and learning from him. I'm much more like dumb brain about it. I'm very like I want this to punch you in the face and knock your jaw off, and I'm very heavy handed. Like snare drum needs to sound like a gunshot and all that shit. And so I think Colin's mastering kind of just rounds that off. And so I think, it comes in all like, and then Colin just shaped it into something that made a little bit more sense. And so I really, I would love to continue to have him master our shit. I think he did a great job. I think the record sounds pretty good.
Yeah. You know, I think for like the average music listener, they only see the people on stage, the guitarist, the vocalist, the drummer. But there's always somebody engineering it, which is almost equally as important as the writing, in my opinion.
Hmm.
And it's sometimes a thankless job that makes a huge difference. And I'm glad that like I think in metal there is much more of a intentional, just pointing to the engineers and the masters in this scene.
Hmm. Totally. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
producers have, I mean, talk about Scott Burns, talk about Greg Wilkinson, talk about,
yeah,
all these guys have very distinct sounds. Um, and I mean, Scott Burns is, I mean, as much of a heavy metal celebrity as anybody else. He's as big of a name as fucking anybody you want to name from any of the OG bands. He's done
yeah,
everything. Um, and I think in modern death metal especially, it's a fine line that you have to strike because some people kind of go way into the weeds with sampling everything. Every drum sounds like it was in a different room. The guitars sound like so fucking, like everything is so separated because it's all done like digitally, and it's all, I say digitally as in like, like digital, everything is digital regardless of how it sounds these days. But
yeah.
everything is like so meticulously separated and everything. And then it kind of loses a lot of life. I find that really good death metal producers these days, at least people who are more old school minded, can still strike the balance of that clarity, but still have it feel raw and organic. And it's definitely something I try to do. In my opinion, the best produced heavy metal, or not heavy metal, death metal record ever is Dying Remains by Mortal Scold. And that's an old school record, came out in the 90s. But man,
Yeah.
it sounds fucking perfect. And it sounds real, but it's like you can hear fucking everything, and you never for 1 second are like, this is too clean or this is too squeaky or whatever. Like it's just the perfectly produced death metal record, in my opinion.
You know, there's a lot of deathcore is big right now, right? And I think a problem that I have with a lot of that is the production that like
Yeah.
everything is so crisp that it becomes sterile. Like it just like it feels robotic. It loses like the griminess of it.
Yeah.
And it's but so yeah, it takes a skilled ear to be able to keep that ferocity and that rawness, but also make everything sound good and clean and come out and make it the listener be able to recognize the different components.
Totally. And I think a lot of people are on like the fuck deathcore train. I'm definitely on that train a lot of the time,
Yeah.
especially with the newer shit. But you go back and you listen, like it's not like the breakdowns had to be that revolutionary for them to kind of go hard. It's just like they're just so overproduced now that they sound like shit. You can go back and listen to like, mid 2000s deathcore breakdowns. They weren't doing anything that crazy. Maybe there's a little bit more like At the Gates influence and maybe a little bit more Cannibal Corpse influence in the earlier
Yeah.
deathcore shit, but like the breakdowns are still pretty stupid, but they fucking rip because like it sounds like a band is playing it, and like it
Yeah.
sounds cool. And so I think that's why a lot of the early stuff was so effective, but now they've just kind of lost. I mean, but they're also not marketing to metal fans anymore. They're
No.
marketing to, teenagers who listen to pop music all the time, and they rely on a lot of gimmicks these days that they didn't used to rely on as much. And so it's kind of become like a parody genre. Like Slaughter to Prevail makes me so angry, and all that stupid bullshit that their singer does. Granted, I think he came out and said some whack shit too, but like even aside from that, like musically, it's just like this is for fucking nerds, dude. This is just for like
Yeah.
kids who don't know what they're talking about.
The Slaughter to Prevail guy is a fucking idiot. I'm just gonna say it on the record here. Um, yeah. And yeah, you have like bands just their whole thing is like recording covers of pop songs. Like it's just completely disconnected from the metal scene at this
So
point.
bad. Yeah.
Yeah. But they sell so many copies. There's so many people listening to them. So I don't know, you know?
Yeah, it's because most people are casual music fans, and so they want
Yeah.
something that they can grab onto. They don't really care about digging too much deeper past the mainstream, and so this kind of music kind of offers them shit that they're already familiar with from pop music and from the new metal that they listen to, and it just kind of keeps going down that route, but it doesn't push any boundaries at all. And it's just annoying. And the guy, like, no mic, just yelling into the crowd. It's like, okay, yeah, that's great. I don't care at all that you can do that.
And nothing against Lorna Shore, and they're probably one of the better ones doing the
Yeah.
modern deathcore. I'm not a huge fan myself, but I can recognize that. But a lot of people now they think that Lorna Shore is the heaviest thing out there, you know? Like it's just
It's
it's
because I think the I mean, the average person is always going to gravitate towards the vocals. I think that's the human
yeah.
element of most music, and so that's why understanding lyrics is important to people and blah blah blah. I think now, with that kind of music, it's become like the vocal Olympics, and I think that's what people are like, grabbing onto. Is like he can do highs and lows and fry screams and blah blah blah, and it's just like I don't care if he can. Is the song written well or not? A lot of times it's fucking not. Like I don't care that he goes
Yeah.
all over the map. He's very talented, and I think yeah, Lorna Shore is definitely one of the better ones. They put some kind of black metal into their shit sometimes, but I don't
Yeah.
listen to them much. But yeah, it's become all about theatrics and gimmicks as opposed to writing interesting music. I think in a lot of those circles.
Well, you did your band. This is your first full length, but you did put out an EP a couple years ago, Vomit Reborn, and it got some buzz. And I'm wondering, in what ways then, following up, is this an evolution for your band sonically or in any way?
Sure. Um, I think I've said this somewhere else before, but I think Vomit was kind of where we got proof of concept. It was the first one we had TJ on board.
Mhm.
But it was kind of when our direction kind of solidified. We spent a lot of time following the first EP, like trying to figure out what the fuck we were. We wrote a large portion of the last track in that gap that we then repurposed for this record, although we had to tweak it a bit. But we kind of didn't know if we wanted to do atmospheric black metal or if we wanted to do more thrashy, groovy stuff, or if we wanted to do so. A Vomit Reborn, we kind of like fuck it. We're a death metal band. That's what we like the most. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make it a little bit groovy, and we kind of like established the sound there. On this one, I think we just wanted to hone that more and make it better, and also have more fucking songs than just four of them out in the world, so we can actually start playing like sets and stuff. But yeah, this one we said, all right, let's take the melody a little further. Let's get a little. I mean, we all became better musicians over that time, so we just kind of followed that trail a little bit further and kind of tightened the screws a little bit. I think we became a lot better as songwriters. I think these songs are a little bit less linear than the ones on Vomit, although I still like the ones on Vomit. But you can kind of there's some shit that we would have done differently if we were to go back and revisit those songs now. So I think we just kind of became better songwriters and better musicians and just tried to tighten the screws on that same formula for this one.
Am I understanding you correctly in that you are saying that in a parallel universe, Trog is there could have been a Trog could have been a black metal band?
Yeah, I mean I mean, listen to the last track on this one. There's a good amount of black metal in there. Yeah,
Yeah.
we all love black metal. We want to still do it, probably under a different name, but yeah, there will be more and more black metal coming into shit because it's fun.
Yeah, yeah, and well, I guess I'm curious. What is the when does it become black and death metal versus death metal that has a couple blackened elements in it?
Yeah. Uh, that's a good question. I don't know if I know how to answer that question perfectly.
Yeah.
Um, the obvious answer is like when you start wearing corpse paint, maybe that's when. I'm not Um, but yeah, I mean, we try hard to kind of keep it within the death metal realm, but we like to push it as much as we can before, it becomes like not fitting anymore. So,
Yeah.
we try to put as much groove and as much melody in as we can, and the black metal is certainly something we're going to continue to push with. But we still want to kind of deliver that death metal brutality. And we thought we kind of pushed the boundaries a lot with this one, and we're kind of hearing feedback like, I wish they would push it further. And it's like, okay, we didn't know that you guys were going to fucking like that. We thought like we needed to dial it in. We were like, okay, maybe this is too far out. But people were like, I wish they would do more of this and expand further. This is just standard old school death metal. And it's like, okay, well, we might have to let ourselves go a little further because our ideas are all over the place and we really try to rein them in. But if motherfuckers want us to not do that as much, then it might get weird. But that's fine. That's kind of what we enjoy doing.
Yeah, and I mean, and there even is a history. There was a point in time, a brief point in time where the the walls between what is black metal and death metal were not as defined. Like the terms were out there, but you have Celtic Frost that is like everything. Dark Throne started as a death metal band before kind
Yep,
of transitioning. Like the two scenes, while they try to act different and there's different aesthetics, are more linked than I think people may realize or at least give
totally.
credit to.
Yeah, look at Morbid Visions, the first Sepultura record. I mean, that's
Yeah.
can you listen to that and point to whether or not it's black metal or death metal? Because I can't. It sounds a lot like both. And then they went more death thrash on Schizo, but like,
Yeah.
you know, very I mean, all that super aggressive thrash metal could go either fucking way in the beginning
Mm.
there. Totally.
The first Sodom EPs, you can't tell if they're thrash or black metal.
Yeah.
They're kind of both.
Yeah. And I don't even really consider bands like Venom and Celtic Frost. I don't even really consider. I mean, I know they're first wave, and like a Bathory, I get a little, but I've never really considered the first wave of black metal actual black metal. I consider it almost like proto black metal. I love. I mean, Venom's one of my favorite fucking bands, but
I love
it's
Venom,
like
yeah.
it's like dark rock and roll. It's like
Yeah.
evil rock and roll. It's fun. Um, I don't even know what to call Venom. And then Celtic Frost maybe went a little bit heavier on the thrashy stuff, so I could see how that kind of led into black metal. But like Venom was just like a jam band with satanic themes, and I fucking love that. But like
Yeah.
to me, black metal didn't really start until like your Mayhems and your Dark Thrones and shit like because that's kind of more characteristic of the sound. But
Yeah, they
somebody
really defined it. You
somebody
know,
will
the
probably
one
kill me for saying that.
the band that really confuses me that, kind of listed as first wave black metal. I get the influence. I do. And I get what they provided in terms of, style. But if we're talking purely musical characteristics, Merciful Fate just isn't a black metal band, just in any way.
Not at all. No, no,
Yeah.
they are a heavy metal band.
Yeah.
Do
Like
people call
what?
them black metal? I've never even heard that.
Really? Yeah, no, I've seen them quite often listed as like part of like the first wave, Hellhammer, Venom, Sodom, Merciful Fate, and it was all because they all added something different. And for them, Merciful Fate added the corpse paint and the theatrics that black metal adopted, which makes sense, but it still isn't black metal.
I suppose I could somehow rationalize in the symphonic black metal sphere, like where like
Sure.
Dimmu Borgir and Cradle of Filth kind of started to take that in like the mid to late 90s. I could see because those like really cheesy like gothic vocals that would kind of go over a lot of those parts. I could see them drawing from Merciful Fate there, but I would absolutely not call Merciful Fate a black metal band. Yeah.
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 Uh yeah. Well, I'm looking at the artwork for the record, and it just screams like old B horror film cult classic type stuff. I'm wondering kind of what was the idea behind the cover here. Very
Um,
cartoonish in a good way.
yeah. We kind of just let our artist run with it. He found us. He was when after we had released Vomit, he was looking for the Trog like horror film soundtrack on Bandcamp, and he found our band, and he ended up really liking it, and he hit us up, and he started sending us some artwork and whatever, and we were kind of we were kind of like here and there like, oh yeah, this is cool, blah blah blah, and then we came time for a record. We were looking for somebody to do our artwork, and we hit him up, and he was so excited about it, and and he was so much more excited than we were going to get anybody, anywhere else.
Yeah.
And he's actually become like a really good friend of the band. I kind of want him to be our guy like forever. Like you want him to be, not to say that we're fucking Cannibal Corpse, but I want him to be like our Vince Locke basically. Like
Yeah.
I'd be fine if he did fucking everything we ever did from here on out. Just because of how much he gets the music and how, excited he gets about doing this shit. But we just kind of we gave him a couple general themes, like it's going to have more spacey themes. It's going to be a little bit more black metal influence. So he put the snow in there and whatever. But he just kind of started sending us thumbnails, and we kind of said, okay, we like these couple. But immediately we knew, like, oh, this guy's got this shit in the bag. Like, let's just let him run with this. And then he did, and he absolutely. We said we wanted a central figure because we think that's important. As far as there's so many super busy death metal albums, and they kind of compete for your attention on like a Bandcamp page, for example. Whereas like you look at like an album like Leprosy, and you're like, I'm looking fucking right at that guy, and there's no
Yeah.
mistaking, anything about that. So that's kind of what we wanted. And he's also super influenced by Ed Repka, which makes sense because you got that fucking guy in the bottom corner just looking right at you too. So yeah, we just kind of let him run with it, and he crushed it. He knocked it out of the park, and super thankful that he was a part of this.
Yeah. Who was he involved in any of your past EPs, or was this the first one he did with you?
This is the first thing he's ever done with us,
Yeah.
and he nailed it.
Has he worked with other metal bands before, or are you kind of his first?
I hope I actually I think we might be the first. He's done a bunch of horror stuff. I don't know if he's ever done anything specifically for a band before. But I hope people start hitting him up. His name is Emil. Well, it's Wa, but it's spelled Roy. Roy. It's fucking Canadians. Um, but yeah, he's amazing. So I hope he continues to work with more bands. But I think we might be the first, but I could be wrong.
Dick. Wow. Yeah. What's the artist name again?
Emil Wa, but it's his last name is spelled Roy. But on Instagram, it's Monkey Business, but monkey is spelled with a U instead of an O.
Incredible.
Yes.
Yeah. I gotta ask too. What are the keys behind you for?
The what?
The keys behind you. The
Keys.
the
Oh,
keyboard.
yeah. I do a lot of my well, on this record I use them to play the synth stuff that happened at the end of the record.
Sure.
That's I just use that as like a MIDI controller, and I load all my synths as like Logic presets. Um there's actually one sound on there that did make the record, and was the main like buzzy synth on the Vomit one too. I wanted to use the same preset as like a little Easter egg, sneak that shit in there. But yeah, I do a lot of the because I write riffs and everything, but I can't play guitar at all. I play a very small amount of piano, but I program guitar parts and I program drum
Yeah.
parts and I do like that. So I will plug that thing in and just kind of use it. If I'm doing double bass, I'll just B and C keys, just and then I'll
Yeah.
quantize it later, and I'll play like guitar leads and shit on there. Um, but most of it is just me clicking shit in on the computer. But yeah, so when I write, I write on a piano or just straight up on the computer. But that's
Yeah.
when I use that.
Yeah. Um, Now your band used to go by the name Trog.
Hmm.
Why the shift to just Trog?
Do you see how you just had a hard time pronouncing it?
Yeah.
That's exactly why. Fucking, it's a mouthful and nobody knows what it means, and it's
Yeah.
annoying to say, and we had to keep explaining it. And yeah, you just perfectly demonstrated why we just said fuck it. Four letters, four big legible letters. Nobody's gonna fuck this up anymore. Trog, there you go. That's exactly why.
It's not even that like it was a three syllable band name, right? It's not that it's not even like hard to read or anything. It's not that hard. It's just the long O sound in the middle, the Trog war rock. I gotta like reposition my mouth to get it out.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
fucking weird. Yeah, we wanted to, we wanted to do like caveman shit. We said
Yeah.
Cave Dweller was the first EP, and we also liked rot. Oh my god, death metal bands and the word rot. Love it. So
Yeah.
many great bands with rot in their name, but Troglo Rot was not one of them. So we were just kind of abbreviating it to Trog anyway when we talk about it, like, oh, we're working on Trog stuff today, blah blah blah. So when it came time for the second EP, we're like, fuck it, just cut the name. TJ joined, it justified a name change anyway. We wanted a
Yeah.
better logo. We got the original logo made for free, if you couldn't fucking tell by looking at it. So we got a much better logo made, and we just stuck with the shorter version.
I don't think I've seen the original logo and pull it up. Is it on I'm gonna pull up some of your earlier stuff on Metal Archives.
Yeah, it should be there. stock image album art. We just turned a stock image upside down.
Yeah, no, that first EP, honestly, that kind of looks like a black metal cover. And but yeah, that is very much a standard death metal logo. And so yeah, I
Yes.
think I think your new one with kind of the ropes or the vines around it and the skulls, like it's just way more unique. And it kind of
Yeah.
has that like animated feel that I think you get on your album and like the photo you have in your like your promo photo. It's just kind of it's humorous in a
Yeah. Yeah.
demented way.
Just a little funny, a little but we want it's still legible, which is good.
Yeah.
I love illegible band logos, but you can only climb so many uphill battles at the same time, and we didn't want logo recognition to be one of them. But I fucking love like Sanguine Sugar Box logo is sick. I think Undeath strikes a perfect balance. Like you can read it once you know what it is, and it makes perfect sense. But that just pile of skulls, just like it's so perfect, and so many great illegible band logos. But we just decided let's be obnoxious. Let's make big fucking letters. Like we're already kind of hitting the cheesy horror shit. Just make it fucking big and fun. So we did that.
One of my favorite illegible band logos is Krallis's
Yeah.
because I look at that and I'm like, I've stared at this Krallis logo 100 times. I can never, I don't know how it says Krallis. I don't see a K in there. I don't see it. I don't see any of the letters. I just gotta trust something that says Krallis, but I recognize it anywhere I see it. It's just like a very satisfying image. It's
I'd
just
have
an
to trace it
image.
out for you because I see the Krallis every time I look at it, but that's just because I've looked at it so many times because I was working in
Yeah.
Colin's studio for so long. Um, but yeah, I could I could trace that shit out if you need it, but it does say it.
But yeah, but regardless, I know that's Krallis. I know that's
Mhm.
Krallis's logo. They killed it.
Yeah, yeah. Undeath is like that. What are some other good ones? Faster Decay has a good one. They're a Japanese like carcass worship band, but their
Yeah.
logo is super sick. That's why I bought their record after seeing their logo alone. I hadn't even listened to it yet. It's just this big, drippy, symmetrical, like diamond looking thing. It's fucking sick. And yeah, I mean, so many bands are just trademarking shapes these days, and especially in the more like progressive, like so when you get into like some really obscure black metal, like some of these logos are just they're like gorgeous. They're almost like works of art, and you would never guess that there was like any sort of lettering in there. But yeah, you're kind of just trademarking a shape, which I think is pretty
Yeah.
cool in itself. It's just very abstract.
It's something unique to metal. Imagine if country started doing that. Just wouldn't make sense. But
It keeps the posers out. It's like I don't want you to read my logo. You either know who we are or you don't. I don't care that I only have 8 fans. Like this shit is for us.
yeah.
I kind of love that.
Uh, well, I wanted to also talk about your promo photo here on Metal Archives. It's looks like you're enjoying some fine cuisine, let's say. That's what's happening here.
Oh, is this the
Uh
vomit one? This is for the
uh
vomit shoot. Is this the one at the diner table?
yes, yeah.
Yes.
Looks like you are enjoying a beer. One of your bandmates is salting something. One has a knife going in. Just a bunch of bones and skulls. Sounds looks delicious, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's first talk about that. How did this shoot happen?
Yeah. So we like I don't know our our shoot for this record was kind of funny too, and we tried to make it. We just love I don't know the standard graveyard shoot. I think is so overdone and like just so outplayed. And I've always been a proponent of like take the music very seriously, but don't take yourselves very seriously. And so we
Sure.
kind of wanted to like how do we do death metal, but also kind of make it fun without being ridiculously corny or like weird about it. Turns out that that exact idea was done by Macabre, like a legendary death metal band, a long time ago. We had never seen that before, and then we released these photos, and everybody's like, they're just copying Macabre, and it is insane how close we did copy them and totally parallel thinking, but like they did it first, and but yeah, that was taken at the Summit Diner, which is a town over from where I live. It's a legendary New Jersey diner, and if you actually Google the word diner, and go on Wikipedia, like the Summit Diner will come up as one of the first pictures. Like it's like in a little
Jesus.
train car.
Yeah.
It's from like the 1920s, and they just repurposed it and turned it into a diner. Um, I worked for a plumbing company at the time, and one of my friend's dad owns that company. He's good friends with the guy Jimmy that owns the diner. So I asked my friend's dad, like, hey, any chance we can get in like after hours? And so he sold him a backflow preventer and said, yeah, you guys can come in after 5 once we're done putting in the backflow preventer. I was like, oh, sick. So he was on his like business hustle too. So we went in and we took like 3 hours, and the photographer was we grew up with as well. He's from our town in of New Providence. His name is Colin Tunney, and he's like a pretty well renowned videographer these days. He's doing really well for himself. But we know him, and he came and did the photos, and he knocked him out of the park. So we just bought a bunch of meat, bought a bunch of like fake blood and random bullshit, put it on a table, and had a good time with it. I think they came out pretty fucking cool.
When you said you were in a diner, I was almost going to ask, but you answered the question like, were other customers around seeing this? But it didn't sound like, yeah. Like,
That was at nighttime. Yeah, there was
yeah.
nobody there.
What's so legendary about this diner?
It's really good and it's really cheap, but it's mainly just really old, and it's been owned by the same family for a long time. For example, the cash register still has like the fucking wheels that spin to show you the numbers, and like the
Mm.
menu is still that like black board that you push the white letters into. And I don't think the menu's changed, but it's fucking good, and it's always packed because it's so small. It's literally just a fucking train car. But yeah, the food is incredible, and it's fair priced. Like you're not going to pay over $15 to go there. And I'm a big dude. It's not hard to let me eat for under $15 anywhere. But they keep the prices low, and they just kind of do it because they love doing it. And I think that kind of translates. But yeah, Summit Diner is fucking awesome.
We have a place like that in the Twin Cities in the St. Paul side. Mickey's Diner. It's the same thing. It is just
Gotcha.
a car, just a train car, and there's like very little seating there, but it's always packed, and you're always gonna have to wait. And it's not good food, but it's an institution.
Gotcha.
Uh, they they take the order on a pen, pen pad.
Yeah.
They type it into like an old school register. And it's open 24/7. It never closes. I remember being a bunch of like news articles within Minneapolis coming out saying that Mickey's closed for the first time ever because of COVID. Like that was a
Wow.
huge deal that it was like closed for even a second. But yeah, there's something special about places like that.
Yeah. COVID fucking. Oh, COVID wiped out all of the 24/7 diners that we had in our area. Not that they went away, they just never opened 24/7 again. I'm like, guys, it's been fucking 3 years. I want pancakes at 3 in the morning when I'm hammered. What are we doing? Like it's
Right.
over now. Please open like all the fast food restaurants. They all like none of them stay late anymore. Like you're lucky if your McDonald's is open till midnight now. It's just like fuck. It really like no like I think they just realized that they weren't making enough money in those after hours anyway. So like fuck it, why would we open them back up? But it's just like, oh, I really want to eat garbage food at 3 in the morning, and you can't do that, you know?
I can still get Taco Bell here until like 2, but I think that's about it in my immediate walking neighborhood. You're right. Like, there used to be so much more late night eating.
And they just stopped letting you eat inside too. Like that's the other like
Mm.
we've had a Wendy's that we used to go to all the time, and we would go eat like there was like a bar seating. We just go like all me and all my friends would go, and we would just sit at the bar and have a great time. That Wendy's has not allowed people to sit inside since COVID. I think they just got tired of cleaning it. It's like, why would we clean a fucking bathroom when we don't have to? And it's just like, what? This is a restaurant. I thought, like,
Yeah.
it's just like it hasn't recovered. I wish it would.
There's a McDonald's by me, the same thing. Like before COVID, there was a place where everyone in the neighborhood got their breakfast. It was just kind of there. And then since COVID, it's just been a walk up window. Like it's just been like a McDonald's kiosk. It's very weird.
Yeah,
Um,
I think they just
you-
got tired of paying those people to do that shit. They're like, oh, I guess we didn't have to do that entire time. Wow. And then they just said, fuck it, we're not doing that anymore.
yeah, just a to-go McDonald's. All right. Um, well, I'm curious then because you've talked about this diner, this photo you took at the diner. So, what as a band collectively are some of your actual go-to meals? Or if you can't come to consensus on that, tell me about some of your favorite must go-to restaurants in your area.
Gotcha. Well, I eat like a toddler most of the time. It's like chicken and or steak and potatoes like so much of the day. Because I'm either trying to gain weight or lose weight, like just depending on whatever goal I have. So it's just very repetitive, stupid eating. But when I go out, I'm a big deli guy. I love sandwiches. So we actually have a deli right in town in New Providence called the Avenue Deli, and it's so much cheaper than every other place. And the food's amazing, and they're all from town, and it's fucking awesome. So that's would be my number one recommendation. But the famous New Jersey deli is the Millburn Deli, and the food is great, but their prices have just skyrocketed in recent years. I went there a couple weeks ago. I bought two sandwiches, and they make their iced tea in house. Their sweet tea, it's fucking awesome. But I got two sandwiches, sweet tea, and a bag of chips. It cost me fucking $42. I was like, I'm not. Yeah, yeah. I had the same reaction. I've been going
Yeah.
there for years. It's disgusting. So because they're so commercial now, like they're almost like a tourist attraction if you can have one of those in rural New Jersey, but or suburban New Jersey, not necessarily rural. But it's not like New York City where you have like Cat's Deli where it like makes sense why they rip you off there. But like, this place, it's kind of like an urban legend within the area. So they've just been cranking the prices and it's unacceptable. I can get two sandwiches and a drink for $18 at the place in town. It's fucking, and the sandwiches are bigger. So I go in town most of the time. But yeah, I'm just a big deli guy. So I will fucking delete sandwiches all day. And when
Okay,
I
so
go to work, I make myself sandwiches.
you said two sandwiches, a bag of chips, and a sweet tea.
Yeah.
All right, so I would expect to pay for a good sandwich the most $11, right? So that's $22 for two sandwiches. A bag of chips $2.
Hmm.
So that's you're talking 22. You're looking now we're looking at 24 and a tea $1.50.
There's sweet
Maybe
tea. They
two.
they sell them in quarts. I usually buy the quart. The quart is I think $5 or $6, which fair enough. You make it
Uh,
yourself. But yeah, the rest of that shit is just insane.
Still $30 at the max.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's fucking ridiculous.
Ah,
But yeah,
yeah.
that'd be. I think everybody should try it. They have their most famous sandwich is called the Godfather. It's a chicken cutlet with bacon and mozzarella cheese with Thousand Island dressing, and they fucking press it on a panini press, and it's incredible. Um, But since they've gotten super popular, their QC has kind of gone down because now they pre-make the sandwiches because there's such high demand. So if you go at a time when they're just making them, or like if they've just run out and had to make more, they're one of the best sandwiches you can get. But if you're eating the shit that they fucking put together at 8 in the morning and they're just reheating now, it's not nearly as good. And you're like, fuck, man, I paid $16 for this thing and it sucks and it's dry and so
Yeah.
you kind of got to go at the right time. You got to go, you got to know when to go. But when they make you pay that much, it's like, is it even worth rolling the dice when I can just go in town and get an amazing sandwich for fucking $7?
So as a sandwich connoisseur, then how do you feel about uh the chains like your Quiznos, your Jimmy John's, your I guess Subways.
Yeah. I used to, I would go to Subway all the time. But once again, Subway, extremely expensive now. Back when they had $5 footlongs, I'd eat fucking three of them. Now they charge like $12 for a sandwich. Fuck that. I'll go to a deli who makes them fresh. Jersey Mike's the same thing. Jersey Mike's is like $23 for a giant sandwich. It just makes no sense. They're good. I like them all. But I think prices all over the place are just way too fucking high. I don't
All
like
right.
it.
I have the Jimmy John's app open now. We're gonna do a little experiment. Okay, we're gonna try to fake order. We're gonna order a number 11 at Country Club, turkey ham and provolone.
Okay.
Um, for delivery. Yeah, and then we are going to make it a combo. Yes.
Well, delivery is gonna fuck you. That's gonna at
Yeah.
least that's
S-
gonna yeah.
Select your side. We'll get chips, drink, I don't know, a Coke. Um, and fuck it, we'll throw in a cookie, pork chip cookie. So add item. So that total for a meal at Jimmy John's is 20.58 before the tip.
Only $20.58.
Yeah.
That's actually not bad. I would have said $33. If but also where do you live? You said Twin Cities?
Yeah.
So what is that? Maybe I'm stupid. Is that St. Louis or am I dumb?
No, it's Minnesota.
Oh, yep,
Minneapolis, yeah.
Minnesota Twins. Haha.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I'm just dumb. Yeah, I think y'all's prices are a lot better out there. In Jersey, everything is just disgusting. And if you go into New York City, it's even worse.
Well, sure, yeah.
Yeah,
But
I would be happy to pay $20 to have a meal delivered to my house. Over here, I mean, I just got Chipotle today. I got a bowl with queso and a drink, and it was $22, and that was at the store.
at the store,
Yep, disgusting.
it's supposed to be fast food.
You'd think.
Yeah. Yeah.
They took away the fucking dollar menu. It's awful. The fucking McDouble's 219 now. It's bullshit. I hate it.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, yeah, you had the McDonald's dollar menu, you had the Burger King value menu, you had like the pick five at Arby's, like you said, the
Yeah.
$5 footlongs.
The 4 for 4 is now like the 4 for 6.
Yeah.
It's horrific.
Do you remember at Taco Bell they had the little $5 meal deals? You had like a 5 grade burrito, a bag of Doritos, and a drink.
Yeah.
Incredible deal. No longer. That's not a thing anymore.
I would get 3 of those and spend $15 and just
Yeah.
have a fucking great time. I'd give the other 2 drinks away and I would just eat all the food by myself. And it was like I felt like I was stealing. It was amazing. You can't do that anymore.
No, no. God, and pizza. Like if I try to order a pizza, it's so expensive. Like I can't like especially like if you order like Domino's, it's fine. If I order from like a local pizzeria here, I'm looking with tip easily like over $40. Like it's just
Whoa.
yeah.
Oh, I mean, maybe that's we have so many pizzerias around here. So maybe that's why. But like for us, you can give somebody a 20 and that'll cover the tip and the pizza around here. But we have, I mean, we have like 8. In my town alone, I think we have 5 pizzerias. So maybe it's like a saturated market. We got so many fucking Italians out here. I'm 25%. Don't worry.
I think what it is too in Minneapolis, we don't really have a lot of like family run kind of just your tips run of the mill pizza places. They're all kind of like trying to be kind of artisanal and like, or we have like coal fire. Like, I don't want that stuff. I wish I just had like a pizza place. We don't really have that here.
Yeah, no, the artisanal pizza is fine. That's what you get when you go to Brooklyn. Everybody's like, "Ooh, we have, this one has special herbs on it and whatever." It's like, dude, I just want a greasy piece of fucking pizza. Uh, New York pizza. People will say New York pizza is better than Jersey pizza. I strongly disagree. New York pizza is you can get it at any hour though, which is the superpower that New York has. But it's a lot greasier. I think the Jersey pizza is better. But I'm also from here, so take everything I say with a grain of salt.
I'm either gonna lose all half of my subscribers after what I'm gonna say, or I'm gonna go viral. And everyone's gonna like know me as like the person who made this next food take. But Chicago style pizza is a dis one of humanity's biggest mistakes. Who let them do that? It's like make it almost upside down, put the sauce on top, and just like in
Yeah.
a pie crust almost. Like that's not pizza. That's like a lasagna.
It's
And
almost
it's
it's almost like a bread bowl for your marinara soup. Like it's kind of weird. I
yeah.
like it, but I wouldn't put it on the same level as just regular stuff.
No,
Yeah.
no. And you go into like I used to kind of live in the Chicago area. You go to like Giordano's, their big place, and you wait like an hour to get a table. And then you get the pizza. And it's like not even that big. I mean, the slices are huge, obviously, but the pizza is just kind of an average size. It's overpriced. But people think it's the greatest thing ever, and I'm like, no, no, I'm not. I'm not a fan.
Yeah, and then you get people talking about, my girlfriend lived in New Haven for a while. She was going to school up there, so everybody talks about New Haven, Connecticut pizza. That shit's fucking overrated too. Everyone's like, "Oh, but did you go to Pepe's?" It's like, "Yeah, I went to Pepe's. Pepe's was fucking super inconsistent and not any better than it was just more expensive than what you can get from your average mom and pop shop here." So I think every region's pizza is kind of shitty in its own way. It's just whichever one you can tolerate the most.
There is a new pizzeria that opened up in my city that I am not a huge fan of, but people seem to like. It just must not be my taste. But it's like a Detroit style pizzeria, and I guess like Detroit style pizza. And if there's any Detroit watchers watching, maybe you'll correct me. Maybe I'm just like maybe this is like a niche in Detroit style
I've
pizza,
never heard
but
of that. Yeah.
But the pizza that I got at this pizzeria was like almost like a big loaf of garlic bread with that type of style of cheese and then
Mm,
sauce on top. Almost like a giant garlic breadstick with toppings on it. It was interesting.
that sounds
Not
insane.
my
I'd love to
style,
try it.
but
I'd love to try it, but I've never even heard of that.
it'd be good if it was like I would enjoy that as like an appetizer, but as the actual pizza it just didn't feel like pizza to me.
How big was
But
it?
I mean, I split it with another person. Like it fed two people.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's the fucking big ass bread chode full of. That's crazy.
Yeah. What a term, bread showed. Uh well, let's get back into death metal.
Sure.
Yeah. I see the death leprosy flag, of course, but give me give me your top three most formative death metal records. What are they?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oof. I'll stick to just the old school, because if I start getting into like newer shit, I'll be here all day. Um, Leprosy is, it's kind of, it was definitively my favorite, like my favorite death metal record ever. I would say it's now tied with Diabolical Summoning by Sinister,
Sure.
from the Netherlands. That record is so well written and it grooves like a motherfucker and the vocals are so good. So those two are probably tied for first. And then outside of those, my picks are not really revolutionary at all. Morbid Angels, Altars of Madness,
Of
uh,
course.
Cannibals, Butchered at Birth, and
That's an interesting Cannibal Corpse like top record, but yeah, great.
oh, that's my favorite by
Yeah.
far. It's like I think Eaten Back to Life was still kind of, I wouldn't call it thrash metal. Some people do. I still very much think it's a death metal record, but I think it was kind of sloppy. And I think a lot of the record was spent with the blah, 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 cadence just kind of going over and over again. And when that was new and exciting, that's cool. But, on your 80,000th listen, it's like, okay, I want a little bit more variety. But like, I still fucking love like Skull Full of Maggots and so many of those songs. Um, but Butchered at Birth to me, they really hunkered in on the groove, but they still kept that like bludgeoning, repetitive, like just beating of a death metal style. And so, but with a little bit of groove here and there. And to me, that's like just the pivotal Cannibal record. I fuck. And then I mean, Tomb of the Mutilated, obviously. I mean, that inspired brutal death metal almost by itself. Like that record and Suffocation, they are responsible for the entire brutal death metal movement, in my opinion. But yeah, Butchered is my favorite, and then Altars of Madness, Untouchable, and yeah. So I'd probably say Leprosy. I guess I gave you four, not three, but Leprosy, Diabolical
Fine.
Summoning, Butchered at Birth, and Altars of Madness would be my top four old school death metal
Yeah.
records.
So that's a great list.
Thank you.
Um, my favorite Death album actually happens to be Human. I just for some reason have a real soft spot for that era in old school death metal where you like or that movement where you had, that those couple death records, Cynic,
Atheist.
Atheist,
Yeah.
Gorguts taking death metal and just trying to make it weird and it
Yeah.
working.
Totally.
Yeah.
If you like that, I'd let me recommend another New Jersey band, Replicant. They just put out a record this
Oh,
year.
yes, yes, I am familiar.
Um, Mike, the singer, he's a good friend of mine now. We toured with him last summer when I was with
Yeah.
I was on tour with Reeking Aura. We toured with Replicant and really really nice dudes. And that new record fucking slaps.
Yeah.
Very Gore Guts esque. But yeah, I got to plug New Jersey where I can.
I reviewed it on the channel. Yes.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah. It's a great record.
so good.
Yeah. Well, Hudson, I don't have anything left for you on my end, but before I let you go, obviously, I want to give the floor to you. Tell people where they can find your music, give any plugs you might have, any closing thoughts. Floor is yours.
Sure. One question regarding your background. I see the Screaming for Vengeance poster. Is that your favorite Judas Priest record? Because it is mine.
No, it is.
Oh,
It was the easiest poster to get for obvious
okay.
reasons. Um, but I'm a Sad Wings of Destiny girl.
That's my
Uh,
second favorite.
yeah.
Okay.
Hmm. Okay. We might be here for a few more minutes. So
Okay.
I'm gonna go Sad Wings of Destiny, Painkiller, Stained Class, then Screaming for Vengeance, then Turbo. I'm out. I'm sorry.
Turbo. Oh my God. I have an original pressing of Turbo, but the last track doesn't play. I got it for like $2. I'm like, still worth it. Yeah, I'm going Screaming for Vengeance, then Sad Wings, then Painkiller, then British Steel, and then I think Defenders of the Faith. That would be my five.
Sure.
Yeah.
I am not a British Steel hater by any means.
Hmm.
Um, I love the record. I don't I think it's maybe a little overrated in their catalog. Like it has some like massive hits, but I
Yeah.
don't think it's as game changing as some of their other ones, in my humble opinion.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Defenders of the Faith, I mean, that there's so many different directions on that record. It comes out, it starts with Free Will Burning, which you can't really start a record any better than that. But like then it gets a little like I don't want to say glammy. They definitely did glam stuff on some other records, but like it just gets very like almost like Def Leppard-esque in some areas, but like it still stays very much a heavy metal record. But they kind of go all over the map on Defenders of the Faith. I think it's really cool. There's just one song. Is it the last song? Is it the very last song? There's one song on that record that fucking sucks. It's like a ballad, and I hate it. And it just ruins all the momentum of the record. But every other song is like a 10 out of 10. So
Yeah.
I give that one song the pass. I forget that. Let me get this. Let me just look it up real quick because I need to make this point that that song sucks. Defenders of the Faith. What's the track list? Let's see. Is it the last track? No, it's not. The last track is the title track. Um, it's not even. Is it? It's not. No, it's not. Night Comes Down. Fuck, I don't know what it is. It's one of these. I've listened to the record a million times. I just never pay attention to the track listing. But there's a ballad on that record that sucks, and I hate
I'm
it.
the same way. I never really paid attention to the tracks, just put the record on.
Yeah, aside from like the hits, I know those. But yeah, beware for that one song.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
again, go for it.
Oh yeah. Just to wheel it back into the question that you did ask before I sidetracked everything like an asshole.
You're good, yeah.
Yeah. You can find us on Instagram at Trog Death Metal, and at pretty much everywhere we'd be going by Trog Death Metal on YouTube as well. And then our Bandcamp is Trog Death Metal at Bandcamp or trogdeathmetal.bandcamp.com, and that's it.
Fuck yeah. Well, everyone watching at home, um, go check out the record. Go check out Horrors Beyond by Trog. I think it's fantastic. I give it my recommendation. As always, thank you to my patrons. You keep the channel running. For everyone else, keep it metal. My name is Maddie, aka Beaver Mosh, and I'm out of here.